Well, yesterday, Australians right around the country, they were outraged to find that the Red Cross, who've received $115 million in donations for bushfire relief, have committed just $30 million to support people who've been burnt out over the summer. And we know many of them are still living in tents. So $30 million out of 115. Now, since this news broke, the Red Cross, I have to say, has been in damage control. And I've followed it closely today. Some of what they say doesn't always look like it was their original intention. Certainly when I go back and have a look at documents they put out at the end of last year when the fires were first underway. To me, well, it looks a hell of a lot like spin. In the end, Australians absolutely deserve clarity about where the money they have donated is going and assurances that all of it will be spent on the people they donated it for this summer. Joining me now, Daily Telegraph reporter Angira Baradawatch, who yesterday and today has reported on this story. Thanks very much for your time, Angira. I want to start with a little bit of chronology, if I can. You were involved in putting this story into the public domain this week. What tipped you off to concerns, I'm not asking you to reveal your sources, concerns that some of this money would be withheld from looking after people out of these current fires and used over coming years by the Red Cross?
Well, Peter, to start off with, it was actually just a simple question of asking the Red Cross about where the money was going. We were curious about how much money had been raised and where it was going to go and how exactly it was going to help people, given that we do know that people are still living in tents without water or electricity. So 2 days ago, I reached out to the Red Cross and asked them how much money they had raised. At that stage, they told me it was $95 million. And then I asked them how much of that was going towards bushfire victims, which was only $30 million. And from there, it was a case of investigating where exactly is the rest of the money going to go.
It's interesting you say that because I went back last night after reading obviously all of your media yesterday and looked at statements on the Red Cross official website, went through all the news statements and media interviews, etc., that they had been giving, media releases as well, since the fires really got underway sort of late October, November. And in them, there's some clever language buried at the back of the documents about the current bushfires and other natural disasters. And I think it's the other natural disasters, is my sense, that they were trying to slip some of this money through using that sort of phrasing as cover. Now, since it's been exposed, I've listened to interviews. They're desperately trying to say today, I listened to them on the Today Show and on Radio 2GB, that all of the money will be spent. But that's not really where they started, is it?
No, absolutely not. They've definitely backtracked this morning. Like I said, after that initial figure that we got from them, we wanted to investigate exactly where this money was going. So I followed through with an extensive list of questions. The first of which was, is that entire fund of $95 million going to go towards bushfire victims this bushfire season? To which I was told that it was pertinent to save for the future disasters, and they pointed out things like cyclones and floods that may come. I then asked them, so how much of that money is going to go towards immediate needs? And I was told that $30 million was going to go towards immediate needs, but it was just impossible to calculate how much of the rest of it was going to go towards long-term needs versus the money that was needed now. Now, since then, like you said, they've gone on interviews and said that they had committed all of the money towards bushfires this season. That was definitely not true. They also never told us that it was going to be spent within this financial year. I was just told that it was going to be within emergencies within Australia, but there was no clarification as to what emergencies that was going to be and along what time frame. So it could be a flood 3 years down the line for all we know.
So do you feel tonight, and I want to make the point too, I listened to that statement where they then said they committed, and it ran in the news for most of the day on 2GB, that the money would stay in Australia, which is not the same as helping people out of these immediate fires this year or indeed this calendar or financial year. Are you confident now in your discussions with the Red Cross that they will spend this now $115 million on the people who've been affected by fires this summer?
No, I'm not. I know that they've said that that is the plan, but given that in all of my discussions where I gave them ample opportunity to correct me, they made it clear that that money could go towards other future disasters. I was also told that it's a disaster relief and recovery fund, not a bushfire fund, so it could really go towards other disasters. So no, I'm not confident at all.
Yeah, I did listen a couple of times. The spokesman from the Red Cross said it is my intention, or it's our intention too, just like lots of politicians say it's my intention to stand at the next election, and of course then they don't. There seemed to be a lot of language that was wriggle-roob. Are you going to keep on this story? Because I know a lot of people around the country listening to Talkback, calls in here, I suspect, on the Daily Telly website, are as angry as the ones I've spoken to about, you know, people really digging deep. A lot of goodwill went into these donations, and there's a brand trust value in something like the Australian Red Cross. Are you going to keep following this up to make sure that money is spent where it was originally donated to?
Definitely. There's been a couple of other issues that have come up in those conversations and those interviews that have taken place throughout the day. For instance, they've said that they're going to commit up to $11 million for their administrative costs. But we've spoken to St Vincent de Paul and the Salvation Army, who are not spending a single dollar on administrative costs. So I think it would be important to follow that through and see how much of it is actually spent on admin costs. There's also the issue, I know they're saying this morning, Noel Clements said that it would be no more than, I think, about 6 days to process those grants. But I've spoken to people who did apply for the grants as early as 6 January when it first opened, and they forget money. They haven't even heard from the Red Cross since then.
Yeah, people said to me too to go back and look at Red Cross practice overseas, and the case in point was Hurricane Katrina in the United States, and similar accusations they tell me were levelled at the time, and I'll go back myself and have a look at them. But this may be Red Cross around the world, international sort of practice, I don't know, but it certainly isn't making any Australians endeared to giving them money, particularly when you look at the heavy load of administrative costs. I tell you what, Angira, you've done a great job getting this far. People want to see probity in donations, and very much will be following this story and what you have to tell us in coming weeks. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate it.